As one of the largest GAs in the country, Arrowhead has program management down to a science. Find formulas for success at arrowheadgrp.com/science.
New Hiscox USA CEO Ben Walter has been busy since he began his new position early this year. The U.S. retail division of Hiscox Group has specialized in several product lines within the property and liability segments since it started in the U.S. 6 years ago. But Walter says his goal going forward is to focus the company and maintain the growth pace the company has experienced since it began. In this interview with MyNewMarkets.com associate editor Amy O'Connor, Walter touches on why he thinks a narrow focus is important for the company and what they are doing to reassure agents and insureds they are here for the long haul.
If you look back over the last few years, we were a true startup for the first 3 or 4 years. And that we started in 2006 here in the U.S. And so for the first few years, it was all about getting the infrastructure in place. That largely is there now. And so it's really been a transition to start thinking about growth. And if you look at where we've been, it takes a while to get the systems in place, to get the brand start to build, to get the relationships built. That's all there. And so we've been growing at a really healthy pace, about 30% year over year, which is really exciting for us. And the challenge is managing that growth. So we're staffing up, we're building more systems, we're getting everything in place to really grow the business. And we're seeing that growth come through, but managing growth comes with its own set of challenges, which are good challenges to have. But that's where we've sort of switched our focus, is from getting the infrastructure in place to really planning for the next phase of growth. Let's be honest, when we first came over here, no one knew who we were, save for a few brokers who did business with us over in Lloyd's. So, we were a strange name coming from a strange place and setting up shop in the U.S. And, so the big push for us has been making people realize that we're really committed. And we are. I'm here, we have an American management team. We're committed to the States and to our local business here. But that's been a journey for us. And I think people now realize that we're here to stay.
Hiscox USA currently writes E&S property with a core focus on construction, builder's risk, and terrorism. On the liability side, it writes a wide range of professional liability, E&O, management liability, technology, cyber, and other products. The company has devoted a lot of resources to cyber liability and healthcare especially, but Walter says they are taking a step back in those areas.
We think a lot of people out there don't really understand the exposures. So we're being very cautious. We're not writing really high limit business. I personally think the people who are out there who are writing, the really big Fortune 500 names are going to get burned on this stuff because the exposures are just evolving all the time and the case law still isn't settled. So you're seeing the legal frameworks shift, you're seeing the risks shift, and I don't know that people really, ourselves included, understand everything that's involved in those big hairy things. So we're being very cautious. We are writing it. We think we're doing it well. And we think it's a growth area for sure. As more and more data moves online, as security becomes a bigger and bigger concern for people, we think it's a growing area of exposure and therefore a growing area of opportunity, but one that you have to be cautious with because, I think there are exposures people don't understand and we do want to write it profitably. We're growing in healthcare as well. Healthcare, historically we've written an allied healthcare business, which is essentially E&O for the lighter touch medical professions. We do look at some of the heavier professions, but we're very cautious about it because the rates have been challenging. So there are some select areas we'll look at, but overall we do want more of our allied business.
Walter says the priorities for the next few years are to concentrate on growing their market segment with the aforementioned coverage areas, as well as find more brokers they can partner with to offer those products.
Here in the U.S., we have a few focus areas that we want to grow really strongly. We want to grow what we call our emerging professions. So these are things like technology, management consultants, recruitment consultants, all of those professions that historically weren't necessarily buyers. We understand those risks really well. It's our bread and butter as a company. So, historically you think of E&O as lawyers, accountants, insurance agents, financial advisors. We know those areas, but we really want to push strongly into these emerging areas where we think we understand the risks really well. We can develop bespoke products that really speak to the risks of those particular professions. And then our programs division. So I mentioned, finding the right kind of partners and trusting them and giving them some underwriting authority to go out and go after some of those niche businesses that we can't necessarily access on our own. That'll be a big focus for us next year as well. And then finally, we are looking to grow our property book. We have a slightly bigger line size. We have some really great reinsurance partners who have a great treaty program for us. And so we have good relationships in that area, and we're looking to grow as well. We're a specialty carrier. The challenge can be with some of the niche stuff is that the market sizes are really, really small. And so what we try to look to do is to build programs, is to build MGA and other distribution partners to be able to do that for us. So when we look to penetrate those very niche markets, less than 10 million in premium and what we think we can get, we really look for partners who can do that because they probably have scale on their own right because they'll write 6 or 7 or 8 different niches. And if it's if it's a product we like, if it's sort of, we don't look for things with attritional losses. We want things where the simple way to put it is we look for insureds who are unlikely to have a loss so that we can really be there for them when they do. And as long as we find underwriting philosophies that are aligned with ours and people that we trust, then that's how we look to access those markets.